are eager to hear from you the position of the All Progressives Congress on Obi's speech. What is the position of your party on Obi's speech? You've heard, you've read the text of his speech. You've listened to excerpts. What's the party's position on that speech and all he said?
Well, Mr. Obi stated that the judgment of the Supreme Court constituted a breach of confidence and a total failure of justice. But he said so only because he lost at the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court ruled against his appeal. So understandably, he is upset. He is very frustrated. But, he took out all of that frustration on the Supreme Court, which shouldn't be the case. The Supreme Court was not a party to the election. The Supreme Court was not a witness. None of the judges of the Supreme Court were at the polling booths where Peter Obi may have alleged that anything went wrong. They simply looked at the brief, the case he submitted, evaluated it, evaluated all of the judgment of the previous court, the Presidential Election Petitions Court, looked at reviewed the witness statements and all of the points made by that tribunal, and then came to a conclusion that Peter Obi's case lacked merit. The Supreme Court is not a court of trial. It's not a court of justice. It didn't hear any evidence, it didn't do anything. It simply applied the law to the point of arguments that Peter Obi and his lawyers framed for determination. Appeal courts determine their issues based on what you, the petitioner, presents as your issues for determination. But you are required to back it up or to have it up at the earlier court with evidence. Peter Obi and the Labour Party did not provide any shred of convincing evidence on which any court could have ruled in their favor. So he has himself and the lawyers to blame for not satisfying the standards of law.
All right. You've said that, he's frustrated and he's taking frustration on the judiciary, on courts. You've also said that the court or the judiciary, the judges, the Supreme Court cannot conjure evidence for you, to evidence to them to back your case up. You're saying that Peter Obi and Labour Party did not present a shred of evidence to convince the judges of the Supreme Court, our lords, why his case should not be struck out or thrown out or dismissed for lack of merit. Are you saying, therefore, that he may be right, that there were, Mr. Morka, there was widespread, in his word, for the word to use now, that there was widespread electoral rigging, electoral malpractice? Are you saying that it may be true, but because he was not able to convict court beyond reasonable doubt, that's why he lost? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying what I'm saying. I'm saying flat out that there was not those occurrences, at least to the degree that would upturn the quality and the reliability of the figures that emanated from the election. That's exactly the point. The law does not require 100% compliance or 100%, if you will, fullness of satisfaction of every spec of standard or law. Yes, in any election, whether in Nigeria or anywhere else in the world, you will have, some infraction, some, guy who comes to a polling unit to make trouble, or somebody, it happens in our normal lives. So nobody expects perfection with any election, which is why the law is there. It says that there must be substantial compliance with the standards and with the law for any election to be upheld. And the February 25th election complied substantially with the laws of our land, which is why all of the courts have upheld that election and declared Bola Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as the president.
What do you say to that, Felix Morka, that Obi was a beneficiary of the Supreme Court and when he was governor, and they ruled in his favor, and he
no, that's exactly the reason in my statement, which by the way, Kofi, I was hoping you would also reference my statement because, it does capture, I think, a lot of important aspects of our position. But look, Peter Obi himself, he said so. We're not, suggesting that for him. He said that whilst, as governor, he was beneficiary of, Supreme Court judgments and judgments of the courts generally. How come we didn't hear Peter Obi go to a press conference to lampoon the courts when they ruled in his favor? How come the courts were, the beacon of a democracy, and now they have become a disgrace to our democracy only because Peter Obi lost? That is very arrogant. That is very haughty. And no one, and by the way, Peter Obi, this is a man who some of his supporters, or many of his supporters, think of as, as humble. Humble in what way? Humble only when it's in your favor? Humble only when you are winning? When the courts give you judgment, then you hail them and celebrate them as the beacon of democracy. And then as soon as you lose, the courts become, something else. You see, we can operate on that, on those parameters. We can do that. We'll do that if every time Kofi loses, Kofi, pushes to destroy the universe. And then when Kofi wins, there's a big party in the universe. That is not the way it works. There are over 7 billion people in this world. If we all, focus on that idea of justice as personal, when it, happens to us, when there's justice for us always, then we will never have the courts. And justice will no longer be justice.
Are you disappointed, let me say, or were you, do you think Peter Obi should have congratulated Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of Nigeria, in that speech?
No, I have no expectations of Peter Obi because I know how, regrettably, how irrational he has been throughout the entire season. I think Peter Obi allowed himself to be taken captive by the hysteria of his followers. So he got completely trapped in that bubble that, he won the election, even from the get-go, even just as he left the PDP and joined the Labour Party, he operated on the, the sort of, presumption that he was the winner of the election even before the election. That's again, very haughty and arrogant. So, for him to now end this entire journey by not taking the moral high ground. You may disagree with the Supreme Court, you may say whatever you want, but out of respect for our democratic procedures, out of respect for yourself even, yes, Peter Obi should have congratulated the president on his victory. You may say whatever you may on your perspective on what happened in the courts or even at the election. But I think that a man who claims to be a patriot, who claims to love Nigeria, for him to withhold congratulating the president at the end of this entire process, I think is a slap. And I hope that, going forward, I don't know what happens in the future, but, that shouldn't be the way to go for all of us.
All right.
I think that irrespective of your grievances, you should still, summon the maturity to do the right thing and to applaud whoever is certified as the winner ultimately.
Yes, my name is
Okay.
Michael.
Yeah, let's put on Michael. Michael, good morning. Where are you listening to us from?
I'm calling from Victoria Island.
All right. Your question or contribution in 1 minute or less.
Yeah, I want to talk to Felix Morka. You can't be using the language you are using and you are saying Obi is not humble. Just check the adjective you are using to describe him. It's not right. Moreover, this Peter Obi we are talking about, with the little time he spent working for Labour Party, he was able to amass 6 million to 8 million voters. And you think that is a party? What have you achieved in your life that you are saying that you didn't win?
Okay.
You should
you don't have to go personal. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael, for your time, but you shouldn't, go personal in that way. Felix Morka, what do you say? The caller isn't happy that you said Obi is not humble.
And what is wrong with saying Obi is not humble? What exactly is wrong with that? I mean, Obi and over this campaign period has lampooned and completely lambasted everybody who, he felt stood in his way.